I've committed my life to helping those experiencing homelessness change their circumstances. One of the reasons for this is because I myself was homeless. And in this journey, I learned a great deal about how people help, which by definition means to make it easier for someone to do something. And I want to share with you what I learned so that if you decide to help, you can make a more meaningful impact. So I'm going to take you back to one of the lowest points in my life. I'd been homeless for 2 years, addicted to heroin and meth for 7. And I was passed out next to a dumpster right behind a barn. I don't know if I was out for 5 minutes or 5 hours, but I woke up to warm water spraying on my face. And when I lifted my head, there's a guy peeing on the wall right next to me. And I was like, hey, man. And he turned around real quick, and he was about as kind as anybody in that situation could be, and he apologized. And I'm like, it's cool, man. It's cool. And when he got in the car, I heard him say to his friends, dude, I just pissed on a homeless guy. He was right. I was homeless, and he did pee on me. That was it, dude. I wanted to change my life. I wanted to become a new person. I wanted to reinvent myself. But I knew they would take a lot of work and I would need a lot of help. The best ideas I could come up with at that time got me homeless, addicted, peed on. There's a lot of people out there just like me, just need some help. There's a lot of folks out there like you that just want to help. And I've been the recipient of all kinds. The helpful and the not so helpful help. What we're here to talk about today is the not so helpful help. A few years ago, I started a nonprofit called the Karma Box Project. And one of the things we do is we do outreach throughout the city and along the river. We created a program called the River Stewards, where we enlist the help of folks living in the homeless camp next to the river to actually clean up in the camp and along the river banks. And we'll give them a gift card at the end of the day. It's a very successful program. We clean up a ton of trash. And we're able to build rapport with folks while at the same time giving them a platform for purpose. And this ultimately helps us in establishing the engagement necessary to eventually get them off the streets. During the cleanups, we were made aware of how much trash is produced. In this particular camp, there were 300 individuals living there, and we pulled out 320 yards of trash a month. To put that in perspective, the average American produces 5 to 7 pounds of trash a week. Here, they were producing upwards of 40 pounds of trash per person per week. How did they produce that much trash? Is it because they consume 4 times more things than the average American? Is it because they live disposable lifestyles? Paper plates, paper cups, packaging, one-use items. Are they more wasteful than the rest of us? It's a combination of a lot of things, but one thing's for sure is that the trash itself told the story. Unused hygiene items, perishable foods, non-perishable foods, blankets, tarps, tents, propane tanks, packagings, all of the things. And when you pay attention, these were all of the things that helpers were bringing in abundance. Now, if the giving was a harm reduction model, I totally get it. Just giving what's necessary to survive. That's not what was happening here. There were so many people and so many different groups coming all throughout the day, and nobody really communicating about what the other group was bringing or what the actual need was. And the people are lining up every time, even if they already have what's being given out. Folks experiencing or living in poverty have a sense of scarcity. So of course, they're going to take what you bring, whether they need it or not, or whether it ends up in the trash or not. And this isn't just our community this happens in. This happens anywhere that overgiving takes place. And it's not just trash that's a problem. What about the behavioral outcomes of overgiving? Watching this scene unfold reminded me of my own experience living in a homeless camp in Vegas. And the groups and the churches and the businesses doing service projects would come out in droves, especially on the weekends, bringing just about everything you could think of. And they were super nice people. We were very grateful. But it almost made it to where we never really had to leave. I didn't realize my own deflation of psychological drive until one day my neighbors and I ran out of food. And instead of walking to the rescue mission, which is right up the street, to get food. And when I say right up the street, I mean, you could see the Jesus Save sign from the front of our tents. Instead of walking there and getting food, we waited for someone to bring it. And they did. We had been conditioned to stay put. I'm sure that wasn't the intentions of the helpers, is to create this unhealthy dependency on them. But that's what happened. It's weird to think that helping can contribute to keeping someone sick. The accumulation of trash, the deflation of psychological drive. What about hoarding? Hoarding is a disability that was added to the mental health diagnosis manual in 2013. And from my experience living on the streets and doing outreach in the streets, there's a huge portion of the population that have this disorder. I want to introduce you to Sally. This is Sally in February of 2021. She moved to this park with a backpack, a sleeping bag, a tent, and a cooler. And within 3 months, Sally accumulated this much stuff. How did she get that much stuff? Well, most of it was brought to her. And it was brought with very good intentions. But good intentions can often translate into ineffective care. All of these things anchored her to this park. First of all, living in the park isn't a sustainable plan. Eventually, she's going to have to move. And you can't take these things with you to the shelter. And if she does decide to work a treatment plan, they're not going to be able to store them for her. And you can't throw these things away. These are her belongings. These are her things. So how did we help Sally? So far, everything we did to help Sally not only reinforced her hoarding, but created a barrier from her to get somewhere. Anywhere. It's important that the results of our help don't harm the individual or the community. And one way to minimize the damage of helping in the wrong direction is to be mindful of the unintended consequences. I want to make it clear that I'm not scolding or attacking the helpers. Helping is absolutely necessary. This is how we grow. This is how we evolve as a community. Matter of fact, we're wired to do it. Studies have shown that when a person behaves altruistically, the pleasure centers of their brain become more active. They light up. We just have to be more thought out in all aspects of helping. We have to ask ourselves, what are we helping the person to do more easy? What's the mission? Are you helping in a way that's going to get somebody housed or improve their situation? Or are you helping someone stay successfully homeless? We've all heard the saying, you can give a person a fish and feed him for a day, or you can teach a person how to fish and feed him for a lifetime. We like this saying. It makes sense because we know, and we can all agree that the giving of a fish could very well be a misappropriation of resources, especially if you do it over and over and over again. Well, at the same time, teaching someone how to fish might take a while. How much time exactly? Well, if teaching a person how to fish translates into getting someone housed, it takes roughly around, according to some outreach providers, it takes roughly around 89 engagements, 6.5 different agencies, and 6 months to get one person housed. One person. So the question is, how can you help in a meaningful way if you have a limited amount of time? The answer is that you find an agency that already teaches people how to fish and you partner with them. Look for an agency that has the same values as you, that provides measurable outcomes. Look for an agency that's helping the specific subpopulation that you want to help. Men, women, youth, families, vets. When you find this agency, volunteer for them or give monetary donations or even join the board. Whatever you do, just get involved. Believe me, most nonprofits need your help. However, if you decide that helping an agency or partnering with an agency isn't your gig, you want to go it alone, keep these 3 things in mind. 1, before you bring the things, Ask what's needed. Often helpers will bring what they want to give and not what's needed. And most of it will end up in the trash or being hoarded. And yeah, that might mean 2 trips. Number 2, if you're serving in a park or on the streets, stay long enough to clean up afterwards. For example, if you're willing to bring in 5 bags of goods, you should also be willing to take out 7 bags of trash. Because if you help contribute to the mess or the waste, it's usually a good idea to help clean up afterwards. Because at the end of the day, you get to go home, someone else will have to manage the trash. And number 3, become a good resource broker. Learn about all the agencies in your community that help people suffering from substance use disorder, mental health disorder, those that are experiencing homelessness. Learn about every agency in your community that helps this population. Learn the criteria to get in, learn where they're at and how to get a hold of them, because at some point when you're helping, someone you're serving is going to be inspired to change. And the window for change on the street is very narrow. So it's important that you act now and know where to send them or take them. One thing's for sure, and this is the fact, is that we're all in this boat together. All of us in here, all of us outside of here, whether you like it or not. You don't get to not be in this boat. The idea is that we're rowing in the same direction. Destination healthy community. And if one of us loses our ability to row or falls overboard, it's important that we don't just throw them a life preserver and leave them there. We got to get them back in the boat and rowing to the best of their ability. And it might take some time and work. In closing, I want to share with you one of my favorite quotes, and it's from a book entitled Community by Peter Block, and he says, "A community only grows out of the possibility of its citizens, and it's important, and it's our responsibility to take those that are on the margin, bring them back into the center." Thank you.